Hello YouTube, it's me Brittany, and today I'm going to talk to you guys about how I was punished for complaining about workplace discrimination. So this is kind of a follow-up of the video that I just did a couple of days ago called Why I Don't Complain About Workplace Discrimination, and as you can tell, probably that video was leading into something that I was gonna have to deal with later, and so these are the kind of results that I'm dealing with, and I'm gonna tell you what's happening, but I'm just gonna leave a brief disclaimer that I'm not gonna mention any company name or anybody's name at all. This is my personal opinion of how I feel my company handled my workplace discrimination complaint. Yeah, but before we do that, I want to thank every single one of you guys for checking in and being here, for subscribing. I love you guys so much. If this is your first time watching, please hit that subscribe button below so you can check out more videos from me and so that you can see the previous video that this video is about. Yeah, so let's just get right into it. So if you watched the previous video called Why I Don't Complain, I basically explained that I have recently, or I've had history in the past with other companies I've complained about workplace discrimination, and it's turned out wrong for me in the long run. Whereas I was terminated for secondary reasons, and I talked about Walmart in that video. And in this video, I'm going to mention the reason I spoke about that in that video was because I was currently under suspension for my own work where I work now. And here it's just a really ironic story, and why I was prompted to kind of say that before the results came out. So anyways, about 4 weeks ago, as people started to come back to work, where I work, I was doing health screenings, and I was being called sir probably 6 to 10 times a day. There were other things that were being said. However, like I said in the other video, these are people I don't care about, so I just kind of like block that out and just kind of get on with it, try to get on with my life, don't let it bother me too much. These people aren't important to me. But anyways, an incident happened at work where a gentleman called me sir 4 times after I corrected him the first 2 times, and then the 3rd time I ignored him, and the 4th time I raised my voice and I screamed at him, "Please don't call me sir." And I screamed it. I yelled. I did, yes. But I was being discriminated against. I was trying to defend myself. Well, the next day at work, my boss calls me and says, "Hey, someone told me that you were feeling uncomfortable at work and that you were feeling like you were being discriminated against. And tell me about it." And I said, I don't really want to talk about it because when I complain about being discriminated against at work, it generally comes back negatively on me. And she said, "Well, why did you yell at so-and-so?" And I said, "Well, I don't know who that is because, but I know the incident you're speaking of, and I know that that person had called me," and I told her, I said, "That person had called me sir 4 specific times. I corrected him twice, ignored him the 3rd time, and then the 3rd time I corrected him, and on the 4th time he called me sir is when I raised my voice at him." And I felt like I had every right to kind of stick up for myself at that point. However, my boss told me that because I'm wearing a mask at work and my voice is masculine, that it's easy for them to get the mistake. However, nothing else about me is fucking masculine. And first off, your voice does not determine your gender at any point. So some girls always ask me why I don't get voice training, and that is exactly why, because my voice doesn't determine my gender. There are girls, cisgender girls I know that have deeper voices, way deeper voices than me. So for me, when my boss said this, I basically felt like, okay, well, she's defending the discrimination and saying that that's okay because I have a masculine voice and that they can do that, so I didn't say anything about it. That was our conversation, that I complained that yes, I get discriminated against quite a bit at work. I get asked offensive questions that I shouldn't have to be answering, but I answer them because I'm just a nice fucking person. And yeah, so she basically kind of forced me to just talk about how I had felt like I had been discriminated against, even though I didn't really want to. And I told her in that conversation that I don't want to do this because HR is going to find out, and HR is going to figure out a way to deal with me and not the problem at hand, which is the discrimination. And I told her that. Like, I told my boss that in this conversation. Now, that was 4 weeks ago. Let's rewind now to, or fast forward to about 2.5 weeks later, to Friday, July 3rd. I get a phone call and they tell me I'm being suspended. And now it's suspension with pay, so that's okay. Like, okay, I'm okay. But however, I don't know what the offense is for. They didn't tell me. I didn't get to find out until I spoke to HR the next morning. So I spent the entire night of Friday night wondering, what could it be? Why was I just suspended? What did I do? I just complained 2.5 weeks ago about being discriminated against, and now all of a sudden I'm being suspended. What's it for? So I waited till the next morning and talked to HR, and HR wanted to talk to me about 2 things. First, they wanted to bring up that I felt like I was being discriminated against, and that that they wanted me to name all of the people that I felt had discriminated against me. And I said that there's too many people to name, and I don't feel comfortable naming people who abused me, because if they get in trouble, now I might face retaliation. I told that to the HR person, and that's exactly why I didn't. However, I did name my boss, because I mentioned that my boss defended the discriminatory acts that I complained about by saying that it was justifiable because my voice was masculine. And so I did name my boss. And we're gonna get into why this is important later. But anyways, so I named my boss, and then she said, okay, now we're gonna discuss what your disciplinary action, why we've suspended you. So first, they wanted to discuss my transgender complaint, which first off has not been resolved at all in the 10 days that I was suspended. In fact, it gets worse. But then they wanted to tell me why I had been suspended, and apparently I had made a social media post that violated the social media standards for the company. Now, I'm not going to deny that that's true. I did make a social media post that probably did deny the whatever you call them, the policies of the company. However, I had made posts similar multiple times within the last 1.5 years on my same Facebook. So it's ironic that a similar post that's been posted multiple times and never been an issue is now all of a sudden becoming an issue. Why are they trolling my Facebook all of a sudden? 2.5 weeks after I have complained about being discriminated against. Well, I'll tell you, because they were looking for ways to scare me. I'm going to go into further detail. This is going to be a fairly long video. Please hang in with me. So basically, I was being suspended and under investigation for a video that I posted on Facebook for a bear. And that violated the standards of posting the CCC footage of our company. So, yes, I was guilty of that. I will take my slap on the wrist, and I will do what I want. However, I will point out that no one had a problem with the 50+ previous posts that I had posted over the past 1.5 years that were very similar in, you know, animals or snow stakes, something like that. Excuse me. So that was why I was suspended. Now, fast forward 10 days later, I've been lifted from suspension. They call me in to fill out my disciplinary action form. Here is what I've been disciplined for. Now, mind you, the company's policies state for most written disciplinary actions, there must be a minimum of 3 verbal disciplinary actions notified in your record of those same exact offenses. The first 2 offenses on this disciplinary action, I've never been spoken to about before, ever. So, the first offense is unprofessional interactions with fellow staff, yelling and not speaking in a respectful tone to staff members. So this is in response to me yelling, "Please stop calling me sir," to a man who had called me sir 4 consecutive times and had already been corrected twice. So this company is now disciplining me for sticking up for myself from discrimination that I complained about. And nothing in this disciplinary action, or nothing in this disciplinary meeting, was the discrimination complaint discussed either. Nor was there an apology, even though the boss that I named in the complaint was there in the room with me for this meeting. So that person didn't even bother to, you know, apologize for their actions, even though a 10-day investigation, they had to have heard what I said. Or the company was not doing a real investigation. The company was pretending to do an investigation with the intentions of scaring me to shut the fuck up and do my job and don't complain about being discriminated against, because we're bigger than you and we can push you around. And that's exactly what's happening here. So the first disciplinary action on this disciplinary action form that I'm being disciplined for, and now granted, this is my last warning, so if you're going to share this video, please, if you know who I work for, don't fucking tell who that is. So but yeah, the first disciplinary action on this disciplinary form that I'm being disciplined for is my defense of being discriminated against, in which I complained about 4 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks prior to my suspension and this whole thing coming up. The second offense, it says that I am not punching in and punching out properly to reduce overtime. Now, it's funny because Walmart terminated me for a very similar reason. And I looked up the policies and procedures for both these first two, and these are the ones that I'm supposed to have 3 verbal warnings before I can have a written disciplinary action form. But anyways, I looked up the policies and procedures for clocking in. Clocking in says that I can clock in 10 minutes prior to my shift and 10 minutes after my shift without being considered going over into my overtime issues. So that would mean that as a 12-hour shift person working, that if my shifts are over 12.2 hours long, then I would, or sorry, 12.4 hours long, then I would be in violation of that. So, while I was at work last night, because they did let me come back to work, I decided to look at my time clock over the last 6-7 weeks. Do you know how many times I have hours more than 12.4 on my time clock? That I have, matter of fact, let's just go. Do you know how many times I have more than 12.2 hours? 1. Do you know how many times I have more than 12.15 hours? 2. So, I'm in no violations whatsoever, because 12.4 would be the violation. So there's literally 0 violations according to the company's policies and procedures and rules. However, they needed to find another way to scare me into thinking, hey, shut your mouth, because it doesn't take us very long to find ways to terminate you without it being about you being transgender. So, the first 2 offenses are completely bogus, and one of them basically says the company stands with the discrimination and says that your actions as for defending yourself are inappropriate and wrong. Discrimination was right, your actions for defending yourself were inappropriate and wrong. That's what it says right here. So, the third violation on my disciplinary action has to do with a social media post. And I'll fully admit, I deserve that one. Probably, 100%, I was in the wrong. However, I had also stated a lot, I had done it multiple times before, and it's funny how 2.5 weeks after I complained about being discriminated against, all of a sudden, now they're finding these things as violations, even though if they looked at my Facebook, if they really snooped my Facebook, they would see that there's many posts over the last 1.5 years where I've posted snow stakes throughout the winter so that people could see, oh my goodness, look, we had 12 inches of snowfall this winter, or just this night. Like, so like, all types of things like that. So like, that's where my issue is here. This doesn't seem to me like you did something wrong and that we needed to punish you. It feels like we are doing something wrong in the company, we know we're doing something wrong. However, we know that we can find more wrong in you and we can push you around. So shut your mouth, do your job, and don't complain about being discriminated against. So I won't, definitely won't. But, it just kind of bothers me, and so I really kind of wanted to share this story with you guys and just kind of express my opinions on this is why it's dangerous to complain about workplace discrimination. I never wanted to complain about this. I stuck up for myself in one incident, and then my boss forced me to speak about multiple more incidences and then asked me to name everybody. But because I didn't name anybody, I'm the one who's punished, because the company doesn't want to solve the issue through training. They just want to solve the issue as quickly and cheaply as possible. So suspend me, scare me into shutting my mouth and getting back to work and doing my job, and then they can get back to their lives. So like I said, I hope you guys like this. I'm sorry I kind of spoke a lot. It was kind of something I really feel personal about. I'm not going to share this on any platforms. I'm just going to share this with all of you guys, my followers, who I love. Thank you so much. Once again, if you have not subscribed, though, please hit that subscribe button below. You can find me on Facebook at Brittany Rose, on Twitter at Brittany Rose 2. I love every single one of you guys. Stay safe out there. Bye-bye, everybody.